Hi everyone, John Hand with the Pulsing Cinema. And it's kind of a sad and melancholic day. It's raining outside. So I thought I'd cover a sad and melancholic film for our movie of the day. It's the James B. Harris 1973 film, Some Call It Loving, aka Sleeping Beauty. Based on a short story by a writer named John Collier, Sleeping Beauty. Of course, based on the whole Sleeping Beauty legend and all that stuff. I don't know a lot about John Collier other than he's an obscure writer that a lot of people have a lot of respect for. Neil Gaiman and all the heavy people have respect for John Collier, and he wrote fantasy, but fantasy with a sharp edge, and so that's the extent I know about the source material. James B. Harris, I do know a hell of a lot about. James B. Harris was the producing partner for Stanley Kubrick, and he was kind of the money man, the guy or the guy who knew money people and had the connections. Was able to get The Killing made. They wanted to produce Paths of Glory and Lolita together, so they did 3 movies. The Killing, Paths of Glory, and Lolita. Along with, they tried to get a lot of other projects off the ground, like The Killer Inside Me and things like that. They had a lot of projects here, but then they kind of parted ways. And then James B. Harris started his own directorial career, and he directed a number of films, not too many of them, but they're all kind of special movies, and they're kind of interesting movies, and they're odd movies, and many of them are what you'd call cult movies that have a very very specific, very active and voracious small following behind them. His first film was the Bedford Incident, which can almost be seen as kind of like a serious antidote to Dr. Strangelove. It's kind of an interesting film with Sidney Poitier and Richard Widmark. And then he went on to do some other stuff. Later on, he directed a film called Fast Walking, starring James Woods, which is an early 80s crime, prison drama, socially conscious prison drama with enough fast-talking dialogue and hip characters for like 20 Quentin Tarantino films. It's like Quentin Tarantino when Quentin Tarantino was just a little tiny baby or a little kid. I mean, it's an incredibly cool, underseen film. And then he made Cop, which was kind of, again, another James Woods film in the 80s, which is, I never was able to make my way through all the way through Cop. It's an okay movie. Maybe if I rewatch it again, maybe it was just a little too much for me. The film we're talking about today is Some Call It Loving, and it's a very obscure film, up until now only released on VHS, very little seen, very obscure. I searched around for it for years. I tried to find a copy of this film for years. I guess I could have sent away and bought it from some gray market video dealer years ago, but I wanted to hunt. I wanted to find an actual copy in a video store, and I didn't find one. I didn't get that opportunity until years and years. Actually, just like a couple years ago, I'm here in Austin, Texas, and both Vulcan and I Love Video, everybody pretty much has a copy of Some Call It Loving. The VHSs I've found, they all have dropouts though in periods, and the video quality is so murky, and so much of this film takes place in dark quarters that it's just difficult to even tell what's going on. So, Some Call It Loving stars Zalman King, the crazy actor Zalman King, who we last saw in Blue Sunshine. Zalman King, a 70s television actor primarily television actor, but he did a couple films like this film and Blue Sunshine, kind of cult films. Before going into directing in the 80s and the 90s and finding a home with the Red Shoe Diaries on Showtime and getting into that kind of softcore Skinemax type stuff. But he made softcore Skinamax with a lot of style and panache, And he's a very intense actor. I've said before that he's like a mix. He's like the bastard child of Marjoe Gortner and Sean Penn. He just has this stare and this intensity that in this film he uses that stare and intensity to great effect. He plays this rich guy who lives in this mansion with two young women. And they play these games. They play these weird role-playing games where they dress up and they pretend to be nuns and priests and people who are visiting a funeral. And they're vaguely kind of sexual. They're kind of role-playing. And the guy, you can tell he feels kind of empty. This film, if I had to describe it, what it would be like, because the film is almost undescribable. It's not an experimental film. It's not like you see a blue screen and a picture of a white dove and a flower, and then it's not some like Stan Brakhage crazy experimental film. But at the same time, there's just the story doesn't really coalesce into something. It's just these scenes, these incredibly well shot, beautiful, sad scenes. The film, as I said at the beginning, is very it has this kind of sad, melancholy, but then there's also this kind of humor, because Zalman King can play things very seriously, but then he says something and it's kind of funny, It kind of reminds me of Peter Sellers' Being There. That movie, which is very kind of gray, and the Hal Ashby film, and it's very gray and melancholic, yet very funny. This Chauncey Gardner, this guy walking through life, And Zalman King's character is not a Chauncey Gardner, but at the same time, he is just this guy who's kind of going through life. And, it's like Baroque Woody Allen. That's maybe how I can describe it or something. I don't know. I'm not all entirely up on the comedic, archetypes in order to kind of pinpoint where this comes from. But it seems like it's coming from like out of this planet. Or maybe the source material is it's really strange. So, Zalman King, he lives in this mansion. It's darkly lit mansion, romantic looking, full of candles, and the romantic, sad piano music seems to accompany him everywhere he goes. And he goes to this carnival, and he sees this carnival attraction, this sleeping woman. And the carny barker says, this woman's been asleep for years. You can pay him some money and give her a peck on the cheek. And Zalman King is just entranced by this woman. And he stays after. Everybody's left. And the carny barker's like, hey, you want to do something more with her? You can pay more money. But basically, this carny barker is like this pimp for this unconscious woman who supposedly has some kind of disease. But he's like, no, I want to buy her, because he's this rich guy. He has all the money. So he buys her. He buys this woman. He takes her home. And he realizes this woman doesn't have a sleeping disease. She's just been perpetually drugged. She's just unconscious, and she's been drugged for all these years. So she wakes up, and she becomes part of the games, the role-playing games that this Zalman King character has. And Zalman has this kind of, the character seems to have this kind of fairy tale image of what life is about and how he can control all these games, and he's part of the games. And this woman, this new influence, kind of breaks up that pattern, and I think the idea is that he finds out that reality is not all it's cracked up to. It's not a fairy tale. And He's also a jazz musician, but it's obvious he doesn't do that for the money. He doesn't care about it. And there is his friend, played by Richard Pryor, who's like an artist, and he's a druggie, and is just strung out. And so it's like a real serious, performance by Richard Pryor. Probably one of his most serious roles. He really has no comic relief other than being like a strung out druggie, and. But yet he gets top billing on the VHS box and everywhere. It's not a Richard Pryor movie, okay? Richard Pryor just shows up, he does his thing, but and you see a little bit of the relationship between Richard Pryor and his friend, the Zalman King character, which I can never quite reconcile. I mean, there's scenes in this film. There's a scene of this woman who wants to cheer Zalman King up, or Zalman King pays her or something, and then there's a scene of him at the cabaret in the nightclub where he does the jazz musician stuff. She's a cheerleader, and she's cheerleading, but she's topless. And Zalman King is the only one in the audience. He's just kind of looking, and this was on like both my tapes. The tape started to fucking roll during this time. There was all this static, and the tape started to roll. So maybe someone who rented this tape just kept rewinding this scene and watching it over and over and over. I don't blame him, because it's the one thing in this. It's goddamn something. It's nudity. It's something I can get a handle on. The rest of the scenes are these weird character role plays between these people in these dark rooms, which you can barely see on this low quality VHS. But at least you can see this nudity, okay? That's something concrete, you know? And it's also kind of just a fun scene. It just comes out of nowhere. This woman starts doing cheerleading topless on a stage, and it's just like and Zalman King has his signature Zalman King zoned out look while she's doing this all the time. And so it's just funny, you know? It's not really, sexual or anything. It's just humorous. It's just funny, you know? So I watched this film, and I'm entranced by this film. I'm still talking about this film. I still, and some maybe once every few months, I think about this movie, and yet I don't want to think about this movie. I remember I was watching it, and I did this thing where I just invented some other work that I had to do, some other thing I had to look on the internet or something I had to read, because I didn't want to focus on the movie because it just felt so damn sad to me. Every scene is sad, and it's well done, and it's not an amateur effort. It's obvious James B. Harris is a top-class producer. Zalman King and Tisa Farrow are top-class actors. Everybody in this film is top-class. Richard Pryor, a top-class actor and comedian. Top-class cinematography, top-class editing, top-class everything, right? Hollywood production, no problem, right? The film has production values of I think it feels like more of a high-class TV movie. That's probably because of the crappy video transfer, and the fact that it's shot with the real heavy diffusion and romantic and dark, and with the plunky piano. It doesn't translate well to the VHS, as I said a billion times. But it's just so sad that you just kind of, I don't know, it really kind of affected me. And then the ending, which is really sad, it just really, hit me. And the ending was just, thank God it's not drawn out. But it is a very sad, sad ending. And it just feels sad without any point. It's just these processions of scenes and stuff. And maybe I need to rewatch it again, or we'll watch it a little more closely. To get something out of it, because I saw it on VHS low quality. Now it is scheduled to be coming out very soon, if not already out, by Vinegar Syndrome. They're doing a Blu-ray restoration of this, and I think it's been playing around to festivals the past couple of years. James B. Harris, the film has kind of gotten out and will become more widely available. And I think the upcoming Blu-ray is, or it may have already, I don't know when it's scheduled somewhere in the middle of this year. Hopefully it will be out by the time this video is posted. The Blu-ray is a good thing, I think, because I think it's going to give me a chance to. This is definitely one Blu-ray I'm at least going to try to somehow rent and rewatch it again, because it's just such a sad, strange movie that it just bears further rewatch. And I think the qualities of it. Zalman King, a great actor, just a great actor who, in my mind, will always be that 70s weird guy that I don't know. I always see him, when I see Zalman King on screen, I just see myself in Zalman King's shoes, going, being chased by the framed for the Blue Sunshine murder, or in this film. And it just doesn't really. He just has that kind of ambient weirdness to him that just makes it a magical actor. Tisa Farrow. Tisa Farrow is great as a Sleeping Beauty. You know, she has a beauty to her, and she was even more beautiful in the early 70s. I mean, she was just younger, you know, okay, just naturally, just more beautiful. Just, though, I mean, she's not, she's still a looker by the time she played Ann Bowles and Zombie, and she did her final kind of Euro cult film. Man, you look at her filmography, she's only, if you look at the IMDb, she's only credited to like 14 films. And some are little bit parts, like in Manhattan, where she's in the crowd, you know, the Woody Allen connection because of her sister, Mia Farrow. And, of course, both Mia and Tisa are the children, the daughters of the famed Hollywood director John Farrow. But I mean, she goes from, like, James Toback's Fingers, which is this rough, independent New York where she plays like this prostitute, you know, and Jim Brown's her pimp, and there's that weird scene with Jim Brown and all of that stuff. And then she's in these European films, and she's in Zombie and Anthropophagus, and then she's in Sleeping Beauty. I mean, it's quite a diverse filmography that takes place really, it's only about 10 years or so that she was doing these films, you know. And she has that kind of, you just see it, that expression of, those expressions of naivete and vulnerability. The same kind of stuff that Mia Farrow had. You see that in Tisa Farrow's performances. And she's a very good actor. It's a shame she didn't go on and have a career in films and television and stuff. Because, you know, she's, as far as acting, as far as performance, I mean, she's just, she's not a cardboard, you know, just a one-dimensional actress. I think those roles in Zombie and Anthropophagus and The Last Hunter she was in as well. She's not given a lot to do, but she's still, you know, with David Warbeck, The Last Hunter, I believe it was called. I think I had that on VHS or something. I mean, she's not given a lot to do in these Euro cult action and horror films, but she's still quite good. So I think I'm going to stop ranting and raving about this film. I mean, I've only really even half watched this film because I said I was so damn sad. I wanted to distract myself while I was watching it. But it's a James B. Harris film. It's a film which bears further study, the oeuvre of James B. Harris. Some call it Loving, aka Sleeping Beauty. Coming out on Blu-ray in a new restored version. Definitely one to check out. Definitely an odd, sad, melancholic, beautifully made film with some beautiful performances and a bit part from Richard Pryor.